Hi, I'm Leah Wheatholter, owner of Workman Forensics, and this is the Investigation Game Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Investigation Game Podcast. Today, my very special guest is Sarah Haug. Sarah is a graphic designer. She's the owner of Workman by Design, and she is also the designer for the investigation game Case of the Man Cave, and quite frankly, everything else you see at Workman. Now, if you're thinking, Workman by Design sounds a lot like Workman Forensics, that's right, we're sisters. I've asked her just to weigh in because we like to talk about using creativity and how that has worked at Workman Forensics, and creativity is something that we care a lot about. I just wanted to hear from a full-time creative what her process was creating the game and just about her in general. So, Sarah, thanks for joining me on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
First, let's talk a little bit about your background, because yes, you're my sister, and people might think, oh, she's just doing your graphic design because you're my sister.
Right.
And in high school, people actually called you Mini Leah, right? Or no, Little Leah.
Little Leah.
Little
they did.
Leah. Yeah.
They did. As I walked down the hall, that's what I was known as.
Yeah. At least you were, called Little Leah instead of like, I don't know, the two other sisters we have. Anyway.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. So it would seem like I hired you just because you're my sister. But that is not the case. You are actually a legit trained graphic designer with lots of really random, unique, very niche experience. So let's kind of talk about that, where you went to school and what you did after that.
Okay. I went to the University of North Texas and got my graphic design degree from there. It's known as communication design. And then we were separated actually into two groups. Half of our class went graphic design and the other half went into art direction. Okay. A lot of people don't understand that that's actually two different jobs. They don't do that anymore. You have a little bit more saying what you do now, but back whenever I went, still is, but it's a very tough program to get into there. It's a really great program. So got my degree from there. Very, very glad I did. Learned way more than I think I would have learned anywhere else. Had some great teachers.
Or like self-taught.
Where I'm going. Yeah, it's self-taught. And I actually was at another school for a time, and I had done some graphic design, so I actually had something to compare the program to. Mm-hmm. So I'm really thankful that I got it from there and the teachers that I got to learn from, professors. And then from there, I actually worked in retail for a little while in the marketing department at a larger, kind of local to the Dallas-Fort Worth area Western store. And that was really fun. I got to do projects such as, like, they had this new building going up, and I got to do a lot of the floor graphics for it. And so fun. I learned, and just like learning the retail side of things, tags, labeling, floor signs, like all this stuff that like I hadn't actually done before, but I got to do there.
That's like one of those details that we see every day in our everyday life, that everything that we see in a store had to be designed by somebody, but I don't think I normally walk around consciously realizing that.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, graphic designer, what do you do? And I'm like, you see that package in front of you, like that label? Like somebody had to design that. I actually worked there towards the end of my college career. I was in college for a really long time. We won't go there though.
yeah, that's true. Okay.
I was in college for like 7 years. So we actually, whenever I graduated, I worked there a little bit longer past graduation. And then from there, I actually went and worked in Fort Worth at a PR firm. And it was me and one other designer. And I got to work with more like lifestyle clients. And that was really eye-opening to me because I hadn't really worked with anyone like that. But I got to work on some well-known like coffee packaging. And and in college, I loved packaging. That was one of my favorite classes. Just getting more chances to design in some different areas. It helped me, I think, be more of a well-rounded designer and not just always doing one style. And so I had to adapt to the style of each client.
Sure. So. Yeah. I think that would be hard, especially like if you don't really care for the style. I mean, whenever I tell you kind of what I have in mind, I just give you free rein, but that's not the case with every client. And even some of my stuff, it's probably not the most fun to design sometimes, but
and even
just being able to be that flexible.
even in-house designing, like what I was doing at the Western store, that's all got to be the same branding.
Right.
So in-house versus working for a small like PR firm, it's really different, and it's a lot of fun, and you really sharpen your skills, I think, too.
Yeah.
Then from there, I started my own business, Workman by Design, and I've been doing that for 4 years now. And I've gotten to work on some children's books for a couple of different clients, illustrating, which...
Okay, so we got to put a plug in here. Because one of the books that you've illustrated, or two of the books you've illustrated, were actually for another one of our sisters.
It was. I got to start that experience there, but she wasn't my only client to do that.
That's true. I know, but one of them, we still have to plug it.
Yes,
because we're going to have to tag her on this podcast.
Yes, we should.
You should check out the Dr. Hartfield books that are for kids that are a veterinarian series of children's books. So that's really fun. And Sarah did all of the illustration for the first two books.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
And that was fun. Huge learning curve. And at the time, it was so great. It was such a large learning curve. Since I had started my own business and I had the time, because obviously I didn't have a huge client list yet, I got to learn how to do all these different things. Because some of those things are self-taught. Some of those things I was pulling over from what I learned in school.
Sure.
And then just what I've picked up along the way in my experience. It has allowed me to really be very diverse in what I can offer my clients now.
Sure.
So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, and then enter 2018, and your sister Leah says, hey, we have this stack of cards that have been developed for this concept of the investigation game Case of the Man Cave. Here you go.
Which was fantastic.
Can you? I think she's being sarcastic about our beta test. But hey, the mechanisms worked. They just weren't pretty. So, which was great. That's what, I mean, I think that's pretty amazing, actually, that after a few months of beta testing, you know that like the system itself doesn't break, but the navigating was extremely difficult because we hadn't spent any time on design. Yeah. What was kind of your process when I handed you that deck of cards and said, have fun?
I remember one of our first conversations actually about this. And I was on the phone with you and I was asking you how it worked or something like that. And you were like, yeah, so like this goes with this. And I just go, stop. Girl, we got to color code these.
Yeah.
And so maybe not necessarily in order how we would normally do things, but the very first thing I kind of went to was like, we've got to color code these.
Right. Even
for me to understand how the game works, not being an accountant myself, never will be, I just thought like, I've got to put these in categories and to be able to even design these for you. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's kind of where we got started.
And then what was the inspiration for the overall design that resulted?
Because
it looks very different from the beta cards.
Oh, yes. So after looking at like the beta cards and I had put together a mood board for you of the colors I wanted to use, some textures, just a general mood board of like where I saw the cards going. Mm-hmm. And you liked it, thankfully. Didn't even have to sell you on it. You saw it. You saw it and you were like, oh, that looks great. Sure.
Yeah.
But you have great taste. So,
well, I do think I have good taste. I do feel like I do, but I don't know if that's weird.
But when you see it, you know if it's going to work.
But also, I try not to go into these adventures like deciding in my head what it must look like, because I recognize that I'm not a designer. So if functionality is there and I feel good about the color palette, we should just move forward. Like I should be able to trust you, even my creative team, when they show me an idea, like just let them run with it because you guys are the experts. So. And just normally, a little tip for people working with creatives. If you do that, you're going to end up with really amazing results.
I think you do end up with...
And just being open-minded. Because something that I have in my head is probably something I've seen in the past. And we don't want something that looks dated, but you and other creatives are studying this every day. You're looking at what's happening, what's going to be the new trend. So... I don't want what's in my head because that's going to be really dated really fast.
Whenever you leave it open to the designer, you are going to get a better product.
Yeah.
And it may not be exactly what you were thinking in your head the first time, but a lot of times you build off of that and then a designer eventually is going to show you something and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, this is so much better than I even thought.
Well, not to mention, I think it allows the designer to be more bought into the project.
Oh, totally agree.
Yeah. When they're getting to actually invest their creativity.
So I did the mood board, sent it to you. You loved it. We went from there. We had already talked about this kind of intricate mono weight line design. And so some of the stuff I had sent you was kind of like, sometimes it makes me kind of think sometimes of those patent patented. I don't know if you've seen them, like those posters that are patented, and they show like all these lines of like how things work.
Yeah.
So that was some of the inspiration behind it. And then also just like for some reason gears and stuff came into mind.
Yeah.
You know, like these lines, like how do these things work together? Which you want to tell a story of, you know, how did this happen? Where did this come from? And so kind of putting all those things together, we ended up with this intricate line design. We actually went back and included a dog.
Yeah, we have
Leah.
several dogs, and they're all named after the Sherlock Holmes series. We have Sherlock, Watson, and Irene, so we included Sherlock's
that's
silhouette
little fun facts. That's not in the designs
that
are printed on the cards, but we actually did go back and add a little dog into that design, which is really, really fun. You know, we kind of just developed this system around really a key series of icons that got created. From there, it really did take, I won't lie, it took a lot of thought to figure out how to connect these where it makes sense, even on the cards.
Right.
Because when you look at it visually, you don't need, you know, I've got like a big building on the cards and a bank and some other stuff. And putting that together, I won't lie, like it took a lot of thought. And it still does whenever we kind of rearrange it to make it work for other products now. Yeah, for the podcast or anything like that. Like you kind of have to think, how do I rearrange this to where it makes sense and it's balanced?
Right.
So it's all a process, and it does take a while.
But it was handy because even before we had the game in the beta form, we had been talking about what are some different imagery that we can use to explain what Workman Forensics does. And I think that kind of started us on that path.
On that path of like the icons and
and
for sure. Yeah, it did.
And of course, the word is escaping me now that we're recording, but kind of like, what are those things called? It's like at the beginning of, I'm pretty sure, the show Elementary, where you take the marble and it triggers different things. I can't remember what those are called, but kind of taking that
anything
idea
like that.
well.
I feel like that really is where all the inspiration came from. Exactly that, and
which I think kind of fits with the whole escape room concept.
Yeah,
you know, I love escape rooms.
Yes, you do.
If I haven't said that on the podcast enough, here's another plug.
When a client needs your help on a fraud investigation, it's often the most exciting and also the most overwhelming day. Most investigators know they can figure out how to work a fraud investigation, but what if there was a way to practice working a fraud case while leveraging data and having questions answered by a pro in a small group setting? Leah Wheatholder, CFE PI, and David Jansen, CFE CAMS, have prepared a one-day seminar to show you the ropes of working a fraud investigation using data from start to finish, including a session of money laundering. Each session is presented by these experienced certified fraud examiners with hands-on learning activities. The seminar concludes with the investigation game, Case of the Man Cave, which fulfills the annual 2 hours of ethics requirements. At the conclusion of the seminar, you will have practical tools and experience to work fraud investigations with confidence and 8 hours of CPE. Each seminar is limited to 16 attendees, so sign up today at beadatasleuth.com or call us at 918-574-6616.
What are some key things that you kept in mind when creating the design and coming up with all of those great ideas to help keep the gameplay moving for the actual player?
I think the biggest thing was color.
Yeah.
Color and using the right color for each phase. So each phase is a different color. And then you even have like a stop/like help card.
Right.
And that card, obviously, like we use 2 different reds. And I don't think I've said it yet, but each color actually, we've got 2 tones for each color that we use. So those colors work together, and then we're able to flip those because we needed a lot of colors, but you don't want to put 20 colors on.
Yeah, we don't need the whole rainbow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we did was we used a dark and a light color of each that all are in the same hue family. And then we were able to like reuse those in a really unique way to make it work for this deck of cards. Because we have, I think, 8 colors. But you got to think that's actually 4 main colors.
Yeah.
But then we technically have 8. So that really helped me personally start understanding the game more as well.
Yeah.
Then the item cards are their own color.
Sure.
As I was going through everything with you, we really just started categorizing it. And I think from there, it really just took off.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like it was kind of a struggle to kind of get started, but once it got started, it just kind of
took care of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I make that sound like it was really easy, but it did. It just started all flowing and all making sense. And then as you were still beta testing at that time, and as you were beta testing, we could see the light bulb turn on, people playing the game, that they were like, oh, this is the next phase card, or this is what I need to do. And cards weren't getting mixed up, and they were... Now, I wasn't actually at the game, but I would always talk to you about it. So.
Right. Out of the game, what is your favorite component? What's your favorite piece in the game?
Oh, I love the pattern.
Yeah.
I just love the pattern.
Yeah, the pattern.
And the way that we have been able to use that pattern across the board for the podcast and for the game itself. And we have stuff beyond, you know, like we've thought beyond what this game is.
Like how that's
already and how that's going to connect to the other games. So keeping that in mind and then being strategic in even the podcast logo. I think that's one of my funnest logos I've done in a while.
Yeah, the podcast
I mean,
logo.
I've done a lot of logos recently, and the podcast logo, like it was so simple, but it was so fun. Like I just had fun with that one. But the logo being so simple and just very user friendly has been like really fun. But the pattern's been my favorite.
So my favorite component of the game are the cashier's checks and invoices.
Really?
That is 100% my favorite because they're so detailed, and even though they're, you know, playing card size, or I guess they're technically tarot card size.
Yeah, they're a little bigger.
Even though they're that small, they still just include so many important details, and so I just love it. I love the way they turned out and the colors that you used, and I just love them. Yeah. I think it's kind of, you know, we've had, I think at this point like 700 people play or 750, and like that's the piece that they really love. I mean, and so many people say, "Oh my gosh, this is so detailed. Like how long?" You know, so as you're describing your whole process, I'm thinking, "Wow, we thought about how careful everything being communicated in the game should be and how it works and how it doesn't break." And then Andrew was so careful about the mechanics, so that the mechanics of the gameplay worked. And then hearing all the details going into the design. I mean, it's just a very intentional, well created product.
Actually thinking about it now, one of my other favorite things about the game is the box.
Oh yeah, the little card
that the
box.
cards sit in.
Yeah.
Specifically like the top of that box though. Because that is the first thing, which I don't know, do y'all set the cards out? No. Okay, that's what I thought. That's the first thing that people are going to see whenever they see it. And it actually has the logo in the middle, and then it's got like the design around the side. And it's like, okay, this is setting the stage for what you're about to get to do. Yeah. And get to do is a thing, because it is fun.
Yeah, it is really
fun. Much better than sitting 2 hours just listening to somebody talk.
I know.
Even though
I
people
think
are
it's
listening
hilarious
to us talk right now.
all of you creative people who have worked on this, you're like, oh my gosh, you mean you have to sit and listen to people talk for 2 hours?
But without Andrew, Andrew is, without his attention to detail on how to put this game together, though, I would not have been able to do my job in the way that I needed to. Whenever I got the cards, I feel like some of it was just like kind of pasted on there, you know, just to make it work. It was awesome. Had that part not been so detailed, I wouldn't have been able to do my job.
Right.
And make it super clear and
this
fun
is
and creative.
So team effort for sure.
Oh, for sure. Not a one person job at all.
So do you think that creating the game, I mean, unfortunately, I don't think, no, you did play it, right? Have you played it?
I have not
played it. Oh my goodness, it was everybody else.
No, everyone else. I don't know.
It.
I don't know where I was when our whole family played it.
Yeah, darn it.
I was probably pregnant and tired and sleeping or something.
Well, yeah, that could have been the case. Okay, so in creating the game, do you think it helped you understand a little bit more about what we do, or at least some of the things that we have to use in our job at Workman Forensics?
Oh, I think so. Going back to like the checks and stuff, I actually would say that part kind of helped me understand what y'all look at, not being an accountant or numbers person of any kind.
Right.
The visual aids, I think, are so helpful, and it does give you a little glimpse into what y'all do day in and day out.
Yeah. Okay, you should just see her face right now. She kind of looks like she knows she might have made half of that up. But, well, thank you so much. Thanks for letting everybody know just about your involvement on this. And I'm so appreciative of all of your great work on the game and on the Workman logo, the Data Sleuth logo, the podcast logo, the Find Money and Divorce logo. What else can I plug here? And that's also your logo. Anyway.
Everything is always what I love working with Workman Forensics in, though, just in general, the game and everything, is that everything's a work in progress. Yeah. So even though we've developed something, like, we're always looking to make it better.
Yes.
And so, and like function better, work better, look better, you know. Yeah. So I think that's one of the most fun things to do. I mean, working for you isn't or doing work on your client stuff, you know, it's not like working in-house at the you know, Western store, because not everything's the same, and that's what's fun. Your creative team's pretty lucky, because most
Listen to that, guys.
Well, most in-house companies, like, you don't get to change. You don't get to change up what you're doing, but y'all have so many different companies underneath Workman with the game and podcast and everything that it's a lot of fun, and it's gonna be really good.
Yeah,
so.
It's diversifying my life, it's diversifying our company, and it's also diversifying everything that the creative team and you get to work on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Sarah. It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Oh, and how can people connect with you?
Oh, yes. Workmanbydesign.com, and same thing on Facebook and Instagram, Workman by Design.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The Investigation Game podcast is a production of Workman Forensics. For more information about any of the topics that we talked about on the podcast, please visit workmanforensics.com. And to register for our Be a Data Sleuth seminars, visit beadatasleuth.com. You can also connect with us on any of the social media platforms by searching Workman Forensics. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the podcast, please feel free to email us at podcast@workmanforensics.com. Thanks for listening.